Good evening, Browns fans, and welcome to OBR Weekly. My name's Barry. I'm a web dork. That man over there, that's the legend, Mr. Fred Greetham. How you doing, Fred?
Doing good, I guess.
Well, that's good to hear. Fred was out at OTAs today, and we, as a result, are looking for what you want to talk about and what you want to hear about what happened at the OTAs. Now, Fred wrote a column. You can find it at the front of the OBR.com. We're going to talk about it a little bit tonight. But if you have your own questions, please hit us up. Would really appreciate it. We have a good question to start the show, Fred. Fumble 13 says he won't ask any lame questions about who looked good or whatever, only the important stuff. Did they feed you guys, and what was it? The world needs to know, Fred.
Well, yes, they did feed us. They're on a nutritionist. They have nutritionists out there, and they've changed the diet so it's healthier food than it used to be. No desserts. The desserts are fruit cups and stuff. But the problem is they schedule all these practices, especially this OTAs, right in the middle of lunch. It starts at 11:40 and it goes till 1:30 or something today. And then the interview. So we didn't get back into the room till about 2. And we had a nice spread in there.
Right.
Actually, I was second in line. But when it's 2:00 and I'm going to go out to dinner with my wife at about 4, it puts me in a hard place. So I had fruit. They had roasted vegetables. I had some, I don't know what you call it. It was marinara pasta, penny pasta. They had 3 main dishes. The penny pasta, chicken parmesan, and turkey meatloaf. Never had turkey meatloaf, and I've shot 62 turkeys. But it was good, and they had salad. They always have salad and fruit and all that. But my beef is it's too late. I'm sure they brought it earlier, but they don't, unless you just skip the interviews and practice, you kind of.
You can't quite do that. No. Mm-hmm. So word to the Browns, scheduling practices around lunch needs to be a priority. You heard it here on OBR Weekly. We start the show off with a bang today. Surgeon DC wants to know, is there any comparison in structure and intensity compared to Greenbrier of years past, which I think may have had a reputation for being a little bit too mellow and happy? I don't know. But how did it compare, Fred?
Well, first off, this is not training camp. This is voluntary off-season workouts. And they're not allowed to have any contact at all, even though today I saw more contact than I did maybe at the aforementioned Greenbrier. There was some aggressiveness going on where I didn't get all the names and numbers, but, man, they were not – when they were covering guys in the team drills, they were popping them, and they're not supposed to because they don't have pads on. But with that said, they are a little more – I would say they've picked up the tempo for the OTAs, and they kind of got mirror things going on, so you really can't cover. Follow my Twitter or X feed with all my videos. Mm-hmm. You're picking or choosing. They had Flacco and Pickett on one field, and they'd have Sanders and Gabriel on the other, and they're doing drills and so forth. And the reason they're doing that, because they have double the quarterbacks with 4, and they're trying to get as many reps for all of them as possible. So there's a lot more going on, especially with wide receivers. In fact, if you notice, they signed 3 or 4 tryout players, and most of them were wide receivers. I think a big reason for that is for these off-season programs, because they only have so many receivers. And even if you have 4 quarterbacks, you can't run the drills without receivers. So
Right.
that's why they have more numbers out there. I don't expect a lot of them to be around once training camp gets going. But yeah, I think the tempo was picked up. They were flying around. It seemed pretty lively, and at this time you got a lot of rookies and young guys that are trying to make an impression, and a lot of the free agents they signed were there. The only one that wasn't there that I was a little surprised, well, there's 2 of them. Malik Collins I didn't see, but Deontay Johnson I didn't see him either, wide receiver. I would think that especially Johnson that he would be at most everything, but he wasn't.
Right. Anyone else? James McGee asks, anyone else that didn't show that you think should have been there? Or you think all of them should have been there, or anyone in particular other than Johnson?
Well, if I'm making 13 to 15 million, I mean, you can look at it 2 ways. I don't need this, or you could say, I really want to earn my keep. I'll start on the positive. The Denzel Wards, he's been at all this the last couple years. Wyatt Teller, these are high dollar guys that are out there. The ones that I think that I didn't see that should be there, a guy like Greg Newsome. I know he's in the last year of his contract, 13 million guaranteed, but I would think he'd be trying to do whatever to get back. Now, with that said, I don't know if he was there but kept inside. Some of the guys that are coming off injured reserve were not on the field. Michael Hall, you had surgery and so forth. So I didn't see Newsome. I don't know if he was there or not. I sent Deontay Johnson, Joe Bitonio. I understand that ever since his buddy J.C. Treader was the NFLPA. And if you remember in COVID, they kind of did away with the offseason. And a lot of them, they were trying to get a movement saying, why do we need to do all this stuff? And I think Bitonio, and I didn't see Jack Conklin. So I think a couple of them older offensive linemen are kind of in solidarity with Treader. Teller was there. Posick was there. David Njoku, again, coming off of some injuries. I assumed that he's okay, just wasn't there. Shelby Harris, 34-year-old. I mean, I'm not surprised. This is his, I don't know. It's like his 12th year doing this stuff. And I mentioned Malik Collins and Myles Garrett. He posted a picture from Japan, so I don't think he was going to be able to make it. Kevin Stefanski says this every year, that I want to stress it's voluntary and nothing's held against anybody. So, it's one of them. It's a pecking order. If you really, I think, are on the bubble somewhat, you should be there. But otherwise, I don't know what there is to gain. Even Flacco said, I don't know if there's any value in this other than, the first 2 weeks, the in class. He said this, when they start to get on the field, some value. But honestly, when training camp starts, and this was Flacco said, all this is forgotten. It starts at training camp. So even though they have mandatory mini camp and all that stuff, this is just because it's the first time on the field. It's kind of like the first day of school. Everybody's excited to see everybody. But yeah, I don't know how much you can read into it. I saw charting quarterbacks and all this. I mean, Stefanski said every day starting yesterday, they use a different grouping and he said, I don't know how many ways he can explain it that this is not a pecking order. Now, whether you believe that or not, that's up to you.
Yeah, exactly. He's been saying that he doesn't want people to read anything into the rotations that are out there, and people will still report on them. So I take it from your comment that you are not the one tracking quarterback stats to post on Twitter, as some did today.
No,
It's not,
I don't know.
fair to the defense, is it? They can't hit anybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I know who's doing it, but I don't read too much into it. It's just because, they want something to talk about on the radio. I think it was a radio station employee doing that. Plus, you can throw it, right between the numbers and the guy drops it. That counts as an incompletion. I realize that probably happens less, maybe than a bad throw or something. But no, I would expect it's like they say, even when they start in training camp and they're going against other teams, you don't know what the play's called. You don't know anything really what's going on,
Right.
So it's just something you got 15, 20, 25 people out there trying to justify why they're out there and come up with some new angle that's maybe different. I'm sure everybody will look at that stat and go, oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it means. I don't know if every day, if one of the quarterbacks was 15 for 15 every day and 10 touchdowns, if that would mean they're the starter,
No.
or vice versa.
No.
I mean, I wasn't even sure who did it. I was just doing Dylan Gabriel, and he had a pass batted down. It was intercepted. It turned out I looked at the replay on my video, and it was Mason Graham,
Right.
That doesn't mean Gabriel is a loser. It's like, oh, Mason Graham, that's one side you're going, yes, the 5 pick overall made a play. Then you go, oh, the quarterback sucks, I had comments. I had somebody say something, well, cherry pick all those plays, of Sanders. And I'm like, well, first of all, it was Gabriel, and I just post the videos that I take from where I'm at. I'm not picking and choosing any particular. I'm trying to get most of the key players, the rookies, the new guys, I even put just still photos of guys that were new, like KZ and Jenkins and different ones like that. So that's what you go. But I do know when I do something about Sanders, if I put his name in there, I could have the wrong quarterback and put Sanders. I just looked at one, had 53,000 views. It's like, it's unbelievable. I can do the same drill the next throw from Gabriel, and it has 3,000.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, folks looking for Shedeur Sanders information is certainly out there. We have a lot of Shedeur Sanders fans who have found the OBR and found these streams. And
I will say this about him. It didn't seem like he was getting a lot of reps today. I got a bunch of the 7-on-7s at the end. He threw 3 touchdowns in there in my video clips. But Stefanski said that every day is different, and you can't take one day because tomorrow it might be him taking the rep, so they're just rotating it around, and and so I would say that in watching, I didn't see him get the throws or the reps with the 11-on-11s like Pickett and Flacco did, and then some of Gabriel. There makes sense. This is OTAs. You're just trying to sprinkle them in. They'll ramp up more, I'm sure, by the time you get to mini camp. But training camps, when you want to pay attention, who's getting the reps? That's where it starts.
When it matters. Yeah. And, trying to count those statistics, I mean, when they're in shirts and shorts, playing catch is ludicrous at its face. But at the same time, they are rotating in. You could be going against the first team defensive backs, the third team defense, who knows who you're throwing to and who knows who's defending them at any particular point in time. Like you said, Fred, an inexperienced receiver drops the ball, it counts as an incompletion, doesn't mean anything about the quarterback. So at any rate, we have some other questions. We got some great questions going on here, and please keep them coming. If we have a lot of questions, then we don't have to turn to my nonsense. One of the guys I did have a question about, though, and I am looking for the tweet. Okay, this is from Serge. Serge says that granted it was just one video, but Dewan Jones looked to be in decent shape. How did he look out there? He looks a little bit more svelte than he used to, Fred, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if they're talking about. I posted 2 videos of him.
Okay.
And he was at left tackle. I was a little surprised. I wasn't sure if he was going to be practicing, but I know from Lane or Pete or both of them's report that he had dropped 40 pounds. I think that would be accurate. He's listed at, what is he? 374. Now that's what he's been listed at since he's been here. I know he was over 400 pounds, I was told at some point last year in the off season. I would say he looked to me, I wouldn't call it svelte looking like you, but I'd say, 330, something like that, maybe even less, that he was moving around out there. And like I said, he was playing left tackle. Cornelius Lucas was at right tackle, and one of the guys jumped, not Lucas, in 11-on-11, and Jones ran out to be the next guy to play right tackle, so he took reps at both sides. But yeah, I mean, for this time of the pay, just being out there to me is a big, because he had a broken fibula and missed like the last half of the season after he started 3 games at left tackle. And then he, I think Lane reported that he had surgery to repair his MCL or something else. So I think he had a couple surgeries. So, when Michael Hall's not out there yet and so forth, I think it's good. And we know last year at this time, the 3 tackles didn't practice. In fact, they didn't practice until training camp. And even it was a little late there. So, yeah, I think it's a positive. I think that he's out there, and the more work he gets, the longer the off season, the better.
Yeah, and at his smaller size, that's less wear and tear on the knees. Good from an injury perspective. So very positive development, I guess, in my opinion, to see Dewan Jones out there looking a little bit slimmer. So let's go back to the quarterbacks. We've got a lot of questions on quarterbacks going on here. And this one from Kenny Lonzo. Kenny, we can't really explain why different reporters say different things. All I will tell you is that it's absolutely irrelevant when it comes to the actual decision. It doesn't really have any real world impact what reporters say or who they're pushing for. But at the same time, Joe Flacco, sort of the default starter, Fred, didn't have a great year last year, but he can still sling it, right? He looked fairly good in what little we saw today.
If you saw my video, he threw a deep ball to Jeudy, and I got that on video, and I posted it. I think Flacco's got the best arm of the group, and he's 40 years old. I think what you have with him. He's in the system again. He knows the system. He only played 5-6 games in it. I don't think you can expect him to be the future. I don't think the Browns are looking at him as the future. And I think more than anything, what a narrative was being pushed, not from her, but from another reporter, was about being a mentor and that type of a thing. And, and he did a good job of explaining it. If you say you're not a mentor, you get criticized. If you say you're a mentor, you get criticized because you should be trying to win the job. I think that he might be one that they would feel that needs the least amount of reps, since he knows the system. He's been in the league 18 years. All you have to do is look when he came to the Browns. He came off the couch and played within a week and threw for 300 yards. And so if they want to really get these other guys some game action and a lot of looks at them, he'd probably be the one that wouldn't need as much. Now, he kind of disagreed a little today that he would like to have as many reps as possible. So I don't think anybody's pushing anything. We're just trying to figure out how are they going to come to a conclusion with this many guys there. I don't remember, a group with, with 4 guys that you're kind of saying any of them can win. You can't just outright eliminate anybody, even though it'd be easy to eliminate the rookies, especially a 5th-round draft pick. But because of who he is and where he was ranked by a lot of, draft experts, you think, well, maybe he can win the job. So, Flacco is a guy that is intriguing, but I think they like Kenny Pickett. I think they're going to, see what he has, because all things being equal, I think they'd rather have a 27-year-old placeholder or maybe a guy like a re-emerging Geno Smith or Sam Darnold type guy that's only going to be 27 next week. So, did you see what Terry Bradshaw said about him?
Yeah, I did. And that was one of the things that I did want to talk to you about. We got focused on the questions here, but
yeah, you can hang on for that.
No, that's fine. He really liked Kenny Pickett. He said he liked him at Pitt. He liked him as a Steeler. And if they didn't protect him or give him an offensive line in Pittsburgh, and so he thinks highly of him. He doesn't seem to think as highly of Aaron Rodgers, who he accused of eating tree bark or something like that. I don't know what that was all about, but at any rate, he was seemingly pretty high on Kenny Pickett. We got another comment that one of the reporters was saying Pickett will be the starter. No one knows right now who's going to be the starter. But have you liked what you've seen of Pickett so far?
Yeah, I saw him. A lot of the plays I videoed, he checked down, threw the ball, and I think that's one of his strengths is he didn't really turn the ball over a lot with Pittsburgh. And I think that's got to be appealing to Kevin Stefanski. That 23 interceptions from his quarterbacks has to be staring in his face every day. If you cut that in half, how many games would you have won just eliminating the interceptions? And, even if he does take the easy route by checking it down to the back or whatever, if you can rely on the running game and high percentage passes, you can probably get somewhere. Russell Wilson is probably a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, for what he did in Seattle. And he didn't look much better than Pickett, nor did Justin Fields in that Steelers offense. And what Bradshaw was kind of blaming their offensive line. And, the Steelers don't do this often, but they kind of threw Pickett out to the wolves, kind of what the Browns have done in the past with quarterbacks. Yep. And I don't know if I'd say they ruined him, but they gave up on him really quick when they moved on last year to get Wilson and Fields and so forth, and they didn't have much different success. So, it is intriguing that he seems to be more built for this type of offense. And it's just hard, for being a reporter looking at the Steelers and thinking in my mind, even if I didn't write it, that as long as Pickett's the quarterback over there, the Browns will probably be in good shape. Well, now he's one of the guys in the mix to be the starter, so you kind of feel like, wow, But I'm open. I listened to him today. I'm impressed with the way he speaks and is handling the situation. When we talked to him the first time after he was traded for, he was the only quarterback here, and he expected to be the starter. Well, now they've added 3 more. And he said, look, this just goes with the territory. I didn't know but I look at it as an opportunity to show what I can do. And so that's all you can ask from the guy. If he goes out and lights it up, hey, that'd be great. I personally think he's the most tradable commodity if they're not sold on him by the end of camp, because he's only got a $2.6 million guaranteed contract, and you feel like you're probably going to keep the two rookies and Joe Flacco, but if you decide that Pickett's going to be your starter, keep the two rookies and move on from Flacco. Again, not a big investment in him, and if you needed him, you probably could pick him back up.
Right. Interesting comment from Pro Football Focus today, not typically associated with, clickbaiting takes or anything like that. They were saying by the fifth game, Browns fans are already going to be saying, packing it in. They're going to be 0-5. They're going to want Arch Manning. They're going to forget all these guys and all that. I just don't think that's going to be, even if they are 0-5, I think you might hear a cry for the rookies. I don't think that you would necessarily hear people packing it in. They would want to see what they would get. What we have in Dillon and Shadur, but we'll see how accurate that is. But people say a lot of things to get attention. So, a couple of questions about other guys who don't play quarterback. Christian wants to know about Joe Tryan and whether he was there and practicing today. He wasn't in your list of people who skipped, so I assume he was in the building or was around somewhere.
Yeah, he was there. I have him in one of the videos. Defensive line might be one where Mason Graham was doing some drills. Again, it's hard to evaluate the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman because they're kind of off to their side. Most of the passing in that is 7-on-7, so they don't really have the lines.
Right.
And so you're not seeing live pass rush, and even if you are, they can't have contact. I did see him. He was out there, in 11-on-11. I think he had one good rush, again, but the linemen can't do much but just kind of touch him. He looks the part. I don't know. He's the number one. He was a first-round draft pick. So he said when he was signed here that he's excited because this is more suiting to his style of play. Tampa Bay played a 3-4, and he's more of a 4-3 defensive end. So, yeah, he's there. Like I said, the only new guy, two new guys that came to mind was I didn't see Malik Collins. I didn't see Deontay Johnson. But, I mean, Malik Collins is like, he's one of those 12, 13-year veterans or something like that. And Johnson's the one that seems like you would think he's on his last opportunity, getting a chance with the Browns for a minimum. When I saw his contract was the veteran minimum. So I would think he would want to do everything he can, have a breakout year.
Yeah, and he's one of the more intriguing storylines at camp, just to see what he's got left and how well he fits into the clubhouse and all that sort of stuff. Mandatory minicamp do you think, watching these OTAs, we're going to have OTAs, and then in a few weeks we're going to have a mandatory minicamp, then we're going to have another OTA. Is mandatory minicamp any better as a situation to judge these players and how they really are, or can we not really expect to get a handle on that until we really get into training camp?
Well, I used to say you really can't tell, especially with your, linemen until they put on the pads and start hitting. But last couple of years they haven't really hit, and they've had so many injuries that they've almost tried to curb that by not hitting as much. I mean, I think the mandatory veteran minicamp, whatever you want to call it, is just a next step after OTAs. it's not going to be much different, kind of another stepping stone, really the final touch-up for training camp. Now what's interesting is the Browns have on the schedule another week of OTAs after the veteran minicamp. Now, nobody knows what they have in mind because when they put out the schedule, there's no media availability. So a lot of us are thinking it's either they're not going to do anything or because that's kind of school's out. Usually when minicamp's over on June 12th, you get like 6 weeks off until training camp. If they make them stay around another week, so I think it'll be modified. I don't know if we'll even know what they're doing or if it'll be rookies have to stay around a little bit or what.
Browns' mysterious OTA after mandatory minicamp. We'll try to get to the bottom of that. More questions coming in from the group. We got a couple from Chantel Penton. And Chantel says, I think Shedeur played good today, 7 of 9, 3 TDs. Gabriel got a pick 6. Like we said before, it's really difficult to tell anything from that based on who they're throwing to and who they're throwing against and the fact that they can't get hit. But she follows up, in your opinion, Fred, do you think Shedeur will make the roster or do you think he'll be traded or cut?
I think he will make the roster. First off, Andrew Berry's draft picks have been gold since this is the 6th year he's made draft picks. The first 5 years, all of his draft picks made the team. You have a good chance because he makes the final pick on the 53. In fact, if you follow the Browns back, it took many times. I don't know who the quickest draft pick to get cut was. It might have been Siaka Ika, but Anthony Schwartz had a tough time catching the ball and very fast guy, 3rd round pick, but I think he went into his 4th year before they finally moved on from him. So, yeah, I think both the quarterbacks will make the team, and that's why I think that Flacco and Pickett are playing I don't think they'll keep them both. It's hard for me to believe they keep 4 quarterbacks, but I do think the 2 rookies will make the team. And because if you expose to go to the practice squad, they have to get waived or put on, waivers, and anybody can claim them before you can put them on the practice squad. And you're not going to put Gabriel or Sanders on waivers, I don't think, because somebody will take them, and then you're out those players. And even if you tried to put them on the practice squad, they can sign with another team anytime. So that's why the last couple of years the Browns have kept 3 quarterbacks. If you remember at the beginning when it was Baker Mayfield, they just had him and Case Keenum or Drew Stanton. They only had 2 quarterbacks, and their 3rd one on the practice squad was somebody that wasn't, really a bigger name. So thanks for the question, Chantel, and I do think he'll make the team. I think both of them will.
Right. A lot of interest in Shedeur and how he's doing, of course, but he's 1 of 4, and he was the last draft pick. And so, I think you make a great point about Kenny Pickett's contract, making him very tradable if the Browns are convinced that Flacco has still got it. Another guy very interesting who you talked to in Rochester a few weeks ago is Cedric Telman. Now, obviously, it's just 1 game, 1 practice. They're just playing catch. But James wants to know, was Cedric looking good today?
Yeah, the videos or the times I got to watch him doing drills, I like Cedric a lot. Got to talk to him. He really believes in himself. Wrote a story about him as well, and really pulling for him. I think the biggest question with him is durability. I mean, he unfortunately finished his first 2 years with a concussion. And what was concerning last year was he was out practicing, which I didn't know you could practice when you had a concussion, but that was a new level we found out. But he never was activated, and got out of the concussion protocol. So you're a little concerned with him, kind of like you were with Denzel Ward, because, how many can you take? But he's big, he's tall, he's rangy. He has the ability to go up and get the ball. So I think they're really counting on him. I would say that he would be in the pole position opposite of Jerry Jeudy to be the number 2 receiver, especially with Elijah Moore being leaving as a free agent. So Tillman last year was the 3 or 2 after Cooper was traded until he got hurt. The big factor is Deontay Johnson. I mean, the former Pro Bowler. Are you going to get that guy, or are you going to get the guy last year that had all kinds of problems? But I think Tillman is a guy they're counting on in a big way. They didn't draft any receivers. They didn't sign any receivers other than some undrafted guys and Deontay Johnson. I mean, DeAndre Carter is a wide receiver they signed. He was the first free agent receiver, but he's a kick returner. Every year Andrew Berry has brought in a kick returner, punt returner, and it's almost been a curse. I think all 4 of them have missed the season. DeAndre Carter was out there today, and he was running those jet sweeps with the first team, very similar to what you saw with, I can't remember the names. I remember they were small little guys, but Naeem Hines was going to do that. And then they had, the first JoJo Natson was, I think, the first one, unfortunately. And then you had the guy who came over from the Bears that had back-to-back season-ending injuries. And so they want that role, but you're not looking at Carter as a wide receiver. He's going to be a gadget play guy and a kick and punt returner. Hopefully he can make it to the season.
Yeah, it's dated reference, but it's like the drummer from Spinal Tap. Just doesn't seem to make it in the season. Doesn't seem to survive the preseason. I tell you what, I want to talk a little bit about the OBR for a second. While you guys are coming up with more questions for Fred and hopefully hitting the like and subscribe buttons on YouTube, let me talk about the OBR VIP service. It's what enables us to do 2 shows 5 nights a week here on YouTube for free for everyone. And it supports the OBR in all of our work. And guys like Fred who spend all afternoon out there at practice and then come in here to do another hour, at 7 o'clock at night, which we really appreciate. If you are a VIP subscriber, you will get exclusive access to our VIP premium forums, including Insider Central for premium scoops, Ask the Insiders, where you get pretty much any question answered by our staff. Someone will pick it up. You get, and Ask the Insiders is where Lane Atkins hangs out. Lane himself, I think, is worth the price of admission. You get all the VIP stories and really all the VIP content from across the 24/7 network, including all the recruiting stuff that they do. So if you're into college recruiting, you get that sort of as a bonus. And also as a bonus, you get Paramount Plus with Showtime thrown in for free after you renew your subscription first time. So if you buy a year subscription at a huge discount, you got to wait a year for Paramount Plus. But if you buy a monthly, you get Paramount Plus right away at the end of that month. So something to think about. It's all, put it all together. It's a heck of a deal. It supports the OBR and all the free content we do. So please consider joining. And Pat Shakes says we need Shadur for OBR subscription as well. A lot of interest in Shadur, and that's good after a couple of years of some craziness and despondency in the Cleveland Browns fan base. I am marking some more question here, and we will return to those right now. Eco wants to know, Jerry Jeudy seemed to catch a lot of balls. How did the wide receivers look overall? He stood out on that one play that you took a video of. Anybody else make any great plays out there?
Jakeem Grant was the guy that I couldn't remember his name. the returner. But yeah, Jerry Jeudy looks good. Last year we didn't see him much after the trade. He had a leg injury and they held him out almost all the off-season program. Didn't really see him till training camp, and then he exploded on the scene. I had some questions about him last year. You know, you traded, gave him the big money, and he really was on potential. But I have to give Andrew Berry credit on that one. He showed us video of him after the trade, kind of brought us in and showed us why they liked him. And almost everything he showed us, you know, came to fruition. They used him the right way, used his speed, and so forth. He isn't the guy that goes up and makes a play in a crowd like a Cedric Telman, but he can get the yards after catch with the quick seams and so forth. So he looked good. Like I said, there's a bunch of young guys trying to find their way. Jamari Thrash actually, you know, made some plays today in the time we saw. Mentioned Cedric Telman. David Bell's coming back from a hip injury. Don't remember seeing him a lot. I don't know if he was out there or not, to be honest. But you got Michael Woods. He's a guy that was injured for a couple years, but he got to play some last year. So, you know, he's got an opportunity. But the big one to me, I mean, obviously other than Tillman, you're looking for Thrash and Bell to make a step up. But Deontay Johnson, I mean, that could be your answer right there. I mean, he had 494 targets in 3 of his 5 years, I think, you know, with the Steelers, and he was a very Pro Bowl receiver, very productive. So we'll have to see more, but looking for those young guys, I think what they're doing here in the OTAs and the mini camps before even training camp, see what they actually have in the receiver room, and if they need to go out and bring in somebody else. I don't know who's all available still, but there's always, you know, I wasn't even, you know, Deontay Johnson wasn't really even on my radar. I'm thinking of there was some better known guys that were available. Yeah, Keenan Allen and a couple I had mentioned in the stories. Those guys probably still be there training camp time, waiting for calls, whether guys get hurt or you just say, we need a little bit more. You know, they've done that with, you know, Shelby Harris was one of those guys they brought in, like after training camp began. Malcolm Smith a few years ago is a linebacker. He ended up being the second leading tackler on the team. So there's 30-something guys out there on both sides of the ball that they'll size up and see if they need to make a move to bring in more. But right now I think it's just a bunch of young guys trying to see who can emerge and take advantage of the opportunities.
Right. The veterans can hang out there and wait for a little while. We've got some questions, and I know that you're taking videos and trying to keep track of 80 different players out there. So don't mind us if we're asking about some guys you may not have seen too much about. But one question from Ian about Jamian Cohen, whether you saw him out there. He was awesome at the Hurricanes, he says. He wondered if he contributed. And the other guy I'll mention here is Luke Floria from Mentor. And he apparently is standing out, or at least stood out during rookie camp. Now that the big boys are, you know, the old guys are back in town, I don't know if he's standing out quite as much. But either of those guys make an impression on you there, Fred?
I saw Floria, you know, running a couple patterns and make a nice catch. Again, there's a sea of humanity. I think one of my colleagues had a video I saw of him that looked pretty good. As far as I lost the name just as quick as you took it down. Who?
The offensive lineman, Jamian Cohen.
Oh, Cohen. Well, they like him because they kept him around last year. He was on the practice squad. I think he was active for a couple games. I did not see him doing any drills or anything. I think he was out there, but it's hard. The offensive linemen are just kind of like in a group doing slow moving things, you know.
Right. My
I
kind of
don't.
people.
Yeah, I mean, I usually do a pan of the group to see
Mhm.
who's there, you know, and like I said, Teller and Posick and Dewan Jones, three of the projected starters were there. I didn't see Conklin or Batonio, but as far as Zinter was in for Batonio and Cornelius Lucas was in for Conklin at right tackle. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, Cohen couldn't really tell you other than I'm pretty sure I saw him. I think he's number 64.
Right. So he's there. He's
67.
contributing. Didn't do anything. You know, if you're an offensive lineman, mostly you can look back. You know, in these situations, it's hard to look good. There's no contact or anything like that. But Jamian Cohen didn't stand out in any negative way. So that's all good, I guess.
Yeah, Roy Mabate Takik, I don't even know. He was from Nigeria or something.
Mhm.
He was their international player last year. He had a false start at right tackle and got pulled out for Dewan Jones when I told you Dewan Jones went in at right tackle. So that's how you get my attention is if you do a false start or you do something. So
Right.
Cohen must not have done anything, you know, to catch my attention.
All right. So he got through the speed trap effectively. Oh, Drew in Brick City wants to know about tight ends. Njoku wasn't there, obviously, but Harold Vanden, I'm sure, was. You see anything out of the tight ends today?
Yeah, he ran some drills with the group, but the one that caught my attention was there's two of them. In fact, I got videos of them. Sanders threw a jump ball in the corner of the end zone on a 7-on-7, and Brendan Bates, he was on the practice squad last year at the end. He went up and
Mm-hmm.
caught the ball. If you want to see that video, you can check that out on X at the name there. The other one was Trey McKitty, kind of a cool name, a tight end. He also finished the year, I think, on the practice squad. He went up in the other corner. It was the last play of practice with 7-on-7. Sanders threw it, and he caught it in the end zone. So I saw some of the tight end. Most of them are young guys. Blake Hart, he was on the team last year a little bit. There's not a lot of well-known tight ends on this team. Fannin would probably be the most well-known out there, and he's a rookie. I saw
Yeah.
him, you know, in the team drills and so forth. But again, hard to stand out in this type of situation because they go out there for a play or something, and then the next guy's in there.
All right. Good. Well, Blake Whitehurst made some plays last year. You know, in the regular season, he got in there and made some catches. The guys used to call him Whitebeard for whatever reason, but he made some catches last year, so it's good to see some competition within the tight end group. Question from Kelly Black, talking about something that you've brought up a number of times, Fred. It said, curious what happened to the thought that this team just needed average quarterback play. Now most are saying that they won't win 6 games. And that really infers to me a loss of faith in the defense. Certainly, you know, the offense last year didn't give you much to write about. You know, do you see the defense really as having a chance to bounce back strong this year?
Well, I think that was a lot of it. You know, they finished ranked first in 2023, and you thought they'd be better in 2024, and they weren't. They dropped a lot in categories, but I think the biggest thing was just the offense turned the ball over so much, but the defense didn't have takeaways like they did the year before. I mean, the offense had just about as many turnovers in 2023, but it wasn't such a discrepancy because the defense took the ball away a lot. Last year, they only had I think 12 takeaways or something. You know, it was very low. They only had 4 interceptions, and sometimes that's just but that's, you know, when the offenses turn it over 32, 33, 34 times, that's 33, 34 more times the defense has to be on the field. I feel that 1-6 start with Deshaun Watson at quarterback affected everybody because the defense played pretty well. They played well enough to win a lot of games early. But I think everybody knew the season was over at 1-6, and that started to affect the defense, and you started to see them start to struggle, and special teams and so forth. I know they're all professionals, but I do think there was a letdown. It is curious that they went out and their top 2 picks when you felt like they needed to go all offense were on defense. Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger. I like what I've seen of Schlesinger just running around out there. I followed him and I have video of him. He looks like a young Clay Matthews, the way he rolls up his shorts, got the blonde hair, running. If he's half as good as him, the Browns will have something. They're going to need him because, it's unfortunate with JOK. You want him to be healthy, but that's a big blow. That's that's probably your second or third best defensive player, with Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett. So you're going to be asking a lot of Schlesinger to try to fill that gap of JOK quickly. And then you got Graham. I think he's going to really help, on the inside, when he's the best defensive tackle in the draft. Sometimes it takes a while for those guys to make an impact. But I think in his position and what they want to do with him, I think he can make a big difference. Him and Collins, if they can put pressure from the inside along with Michael Hall, I think that, the defense can get back in the top 10, if not the top 5. And if they're playing like a top 10, top 5 defense, the offense just does need to have average quarterback play. But last year, the quarterback play was so pathetic, it was way below adequate. That buried them. 15 points a game is not going to win you many high school games, let alone the NFL. So, yeah, the bar's low. But I think that's why they're looking for somebody to just take care of the ball and turn the ball over to these big backs, Judkins and Sampson and Ford, and pound the ball and set up the play action, whether it's Pickett or Flacco or even one of the rookies.
Yeah. More questions that we have here as we go through them. Pat wants to know about facility updates. Browns are building like crazy out there in Berea. They've leveled all the houses that were in the area and things like that. And now they have a legit weight room and, virtual reality room and all that sort of things. Any positive comments from the players about the continued upgrade in facilities?
We don't really talk to players about that too much. I know they gave us a tour last year when they got it finished in the middle towards the end of the season. It was unbelievable. I think they've got to be impressed with it, especially if nothing else for the virtual reality golf thing they got up there. It's like I don't know how many of them are in there, but they got like a 25-yard, I think it is, screen, like a movie theater that's virtual reality that you can have the video of 22 players and you have like a virtual reality thing and in your position, you're inserted in it, And it's way over my head what they have out there. And if they're not impressed with that, I don't know what they would be impressed. The weight facility was unbelievable. So yeah, they're in tune trying to acquiesce to the players and all that. I'm sure the locker room will be another thing they'll address. It just is crowded and they want their privacy and as that goes on. But I think that they haven't broken ground. I thought you were just talking about they're getting ready to break ground for the expansion. They're building a mini stadium out there, hotels on all that property there at Berea to hook up to that. And that's one of the things why part of the reason I think they're traveling to Carolina and to Philadelphia during training camp, because there's going to be so much going on,
Right.
in Berea building. Can't accommodate fans. I don't know exactly when they're breaking ground, but I heard it was going to be this spring or early summer.
Right. Well, we've got people out there, keeping track of the reps on the field for all the quarterbacks, but they're not keeping track of the virtual reality reps, Fred. God knows how they're doing in virtual reality, which one is standing out or whatever. At any rate, Fumble 13 tops off the show tonight with his question. He says, could the two of you ever dream of doing something better than reporting on the Browns? And sometimes it seems like it's, a grind, Fred, but all in all, you can't complain too much about having to cover the Cleveland Browns, right? Or you could, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, I enjoy it a lot, or I wouldn't be doing it. It is sometimes, a lot happens in a quick time, just like today. I mean, by myself out there, trying to make all the videos and everything, all the interviews, and trying to say what would our people want to read and what do they want to see. And, it can be a little overwhelming. I like the games. It's every day at practice, and all that. Some people really like to watch practice. I've seen enough practices in my lifetime to last me. But, yeah, I'm fortunate. I appreciate the opportunity that I have. I mean, when you boil it all down there, I will say this, and Barry probably knows this, and maybe the readers don't or listeners don't. There's really only 10 to 12 beat reporters that are out there every day covering the team. There are 1 or 2 or 3 TV reporters, but they're not really beat reporters. But the beat reporters, they're doing all the writing. That's where all the stories that you read from the Berea, almost everything comes from, and it's not always accurate. What we see a report on, somebody takes off on their slant, and next thing you know, it's blown up all over the place. But, it is a privilege to be one of the, and we don't always get the credit, for it, because it came original from one of the people out there. That's how you got the video. That's how, the Browns are putting stuff out there themselves, but anything that isn't from the team is coming from a very few group of people.
Yeah. You got 10 or 12 people at the center of this ecosystem actually producing the content and seeing what's going on. Then you have, 80 million scavengers sort of take that and, repackage it and put clickbaity titles on it, stuff like that. The state of the media right now, of course, gets me worked up every morning when I do sit down to do the news wire, and I have to wade through all that stuff. From my perspective, there's nothing better than running a Cleveland Browns website. This has been my passion for like 25 years. I love it. I love every element of it. I get to wake up in the morning and make snide remarks about whatever is on my mind in the news wire, and just have a lot of fun with folks on the forums and stuff like that. And so if you want to help support the one of the 12 original content makers out there in Berea, Mr. Fred Greetham, please do so by hitting the OBR, reading his work, and consider purchasing a VIP subscription. And that's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us after a long day at camp here, Fred. Really appreciate it, as always, and really appreciate all the great questions and comments from folks out there. So for Fred Greetham, I'm Barry McBride. This has been another edition of OBR Weekly. We will see you all again next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Good night, everybody.
There will be another OTA next Wednesday we'll report on. So thank you.
Yep. Good night, everybody.